Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we have a very special guest. This lady has been on the music scene for over 35 years and has worked with so many greats from Cecil Bridgewater, Kenny Barron, so many. I could just go on and on and on. One of my favorite jazz singers. She is here with us today. Please welcome Miss Vanessa Rubin. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, so glad to be on the show.
Thank you so much. Now, Vanessa, we're familiar with you, as I said, as a jazz singer. You've been on the scene for over 35 years. As I said, you've worked with so many greats from Kenny Barron, Pharoah Sanders. I can go on and on. But we don't know too much about your humble beginnings. I understand that you are from Cleveland, Ohio. Just curious about your upbringing, how you got involved in music. Tell us a little bit about that.
Woo-wee, okay. So yes, I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the seventh of 8 children.
Okay.
I like to always start by saying being the seventh of 8 children did not give me much jurisdiction over what was being played on our Admiral stereo.
Okay.
And I know I'm dating myself, but I love that. In the days when they were selling records, audio and stereo was $2 and audio, right? So
That's right. Oh, I know.
I was young and my brother was buying them like that. But in any case, so, grew up in a household was always full of culture, full of music. My father was a World War II veteran, so, he loved all of the big bands and he loved Basie. And my mother is from Trinidad and she loved calypso and jazz too, but obviously, I heard a lot of Sparrow and Calypso Rose and whoever the popular calypsonians were at the time, Kitchener, people like that. And of course, my older brothers were into, Miles and Cannonball Adderley and all that great stuff Nancy did on Capitol Records and, stuff like that. Dakota Staten and Lambert Hendricks and Ross and
they were great.
All that kind of stuff. I mean, all of that was really hip then. And then I waited to play 45s, which was all of the stuff from Motown that was happening 3 hours from where I lived, and all the other stuff. As you know, Berry Gordy had a couple of labels. Right. And so we were listening to everything. And in my neighborhood, it was a lot of talented young people, and we were always encouraged to do things in school, outside of school. So we always had neighborhood talent shows. And one of the guys from the they were inducted into the Hall of Fame was a Sly Slick and the Wicked. Well, one of them grew up on my street. Charles Steele. Yeah, Charles Steele. And he taught, and I was a member of 3 girls on my street. We were always trying to emulate all the latest, female singing groups, Martha and the Vandellas and the Supremes and the Toys and everything. And he used to teach us, he was the first one that taught us 3-part harmony.
Okay.
We would be rehearsing in my girlfriend's basement and he would come up the street and he would, teach us stuff like that. So, nobody knew he was going to be, about the Sly, Slick, and the Wicked in those days. The OJs are from here too. And, it was just a very artistically rich community, and music was just always a part of our lives, like anything. But my parents were all about academia and, going to college, and, they wanted me to go to law school and all of this kind of stuff. And so I went to college. I was a journalism major.
Journalism.
Yeah, because I liked writing. I always like to say, when I think about my love for words, storytelling, how fascinating words are in terms of how you put things together to convey meaning. I was probably always on my way to being a singer, because I always sung, but it was never anything I thought I would be doing as a career. Because it was always something I just did and nobody ever said, you should pursue that. It was academia. So you know, got out of journalism school and still hadn't found what I would call my passion. Because I always felt, even after coming out of school, I would like to have a job that I really got up every morning and felt excited about going to. And a lot of people don't have that luxury. You know, they go to very mundane jobs and they don't like it and they got to go there for 30 years or whatever. And somehow in my senior year, I got involved in a beauty contest at Ohio State as a joke. A girlfriend of mine and I said, "Oh, girl, let's get in this thing and let's just do it for the fun." And that's where I had my aha moment.
God bless the child. You performed that, right?
Child, yeah. Bobby Floyd, who is the preeminent pianist, organ player, who still lives in Columbus, played. So, I mean, the accompaniment was fantastic anyway. And I got a reaction that made a light go on. Let me say, before that, you know, I sung in school, you know, I had the group with the two other girls and everything. But I mean, I don't think I was, at that time, I was just singing for the pure pleasure of it. And this was different because I was by myself and I was trying to achieve, you know, I was trying to win, but at the same time, I really didn't care if I did or not because it was a joke.
Right.
And then the reaction. And then I said, wow, I wonder if if I do this seriously, what would happen? Well, because those seeds were planted very early in me, I also like to think. And then somebody put a little water on it and it began to blossom. And I came back to Cleveland for about 2 years. And of course, I couldn't expect my parents to support me now after I finished college to start a whole new career. So I just said, I'm going to teach school because I could do English at least with a journalism degree, and I'm going to pursue music at night. And I started singing around Cleveland and doing very well. And I just made that connection and I got the bug, I got addicted. And after about 2 or 3 years of working here, I always wanted to go to New York. I thought I would go to school in New York for my master's, but I didn't. I ended up moving to New York to pursue and network jazz because I thought, wow, if you think this is what you want to do and you're the greatest little thing here in Cleveland 8 days a week, go up there and test what you think you have up against the best and learn and study and, you know, see if you really have anything.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And I went and I stayed. And you talk about humble. I had humble beginnings, but my humble beginnings really began in New York.
Yeah.
I didn't have the safety nets and a family. You know, I had a little job. I used to teach there as well. Discovered really a passion for working with at-risk youth, which is what I did most of the time, teaching high school,
right,
inner city high school. But it was always about a means to an end for me. Yeah. And, you know, waiting for that opportunity where I could fully transition, because working at night, going to workshops, hanging out, networking, you know, singing gigs, and then getting up and going to school the next day, I was working all the time. And even that wasn't like I was singing that much, but I was out there trying to make connections and do things.
Now, I was going to ask you,
full schedule.
Right. Vanessa, I was going to ask you, how did you hook up with, you know, people like Pharoah Sanders and Barry Harris? Was that early?
That was part of that being out there, you see, because I was meeting musicians and musicians were introducing me to other musicians. There was a drummer from Cleveland, Ohio, who I worked with here in Cleveland by the name of Greg Bandy. Everybody knows Greg. Greg was working with Pharoah Sanders. He introduced me to Pharoah, and Pharoah was working at the Vanguard that week. And he said, you know, it's my friend from Cleveland and she's here, you know, singing. And Pharoah let me come to the Vanguard every night and sing Easy Living with him.
Oh, wow.
And needless to say, my finances were not all that great at the time. And he gave me some money at the end of the week. And I was just like, done.
Wow.
That he even paid me, because I would have done that for nothing every night just for the experience.
Yeah.
And so that's how that happened. You know, meeting people, sitting in, meeting more people. Barry Harris was running a workshop on 8th Avenue, and I used to go there once a week. And there were other musicians there, up and coming people. And that's where I met Frank Foster, because Frank Foster was also teaching a class there. And so I would go to Barry's class, I would go to Frank's classes, and from Frank, you know, I learned so much about music, but also about his story with the Basie Band and how young he was, and his writing, and all the different people, Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah and everybody that he wrote for. And he had this fantastic big band that featured his own arrangements, The Loud Minority. And I got a chance to sing with that band a couple of times. And Frank was very gracious and did 3 arrangements for me that I used with Mercer Ellington.
Yeah, wow.
And I used to, and I got in with Hamp, and I sung with Hamp's band off and on for about
Lionel
a year.
Hampton. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was doing whatever I needed to do. And every day, I remember I had this 10-speed every day, almost every day. You know, I got this, did this demo tape. At that time, I was close to Paul West, and he knew Kenny Barron. Paul West, the bassist, and he knew Kenny Barron. And Kenny Barron, I met everybody that was in his group, which was a lot of people that I didn't even know. Chris White, and it'll come back to me. Just in his age group, all of those great musicians, I would just be there looking around. Ben Riley, I met Ben Riley and became good friends, just people like that. And I did this demo tape because I knew Paul, and Paul knew Kenny, and Lewis Nash. I knew Lewis, he lived in Brooklyn too.
Great drummer. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I did my first demo tape with those 3. And I used to get on my 10-speed bike and ride to the post office almost every other day, mailing out that demo tape to anybody who I thought would listen to it. And of course, nobody ever responded, because when you send out things like that, they don't really send you anything back. It probably ended up on the pile with everybody else that was sending stuff out.
Right.
I remember a guy from Verve wrote me back a letter. He was running the jazz label at the time. And every time I see him, I go, man, I just thank you, because all the years that I was doing that for like maybe 10 years, which is not a long time compared to some people who have been there in New York for 20, 30, 40 years and never got an opportunity to get with a major label. He sent me back a letter and said, thank you very much. We're not interested in, with this at this time. But I was just so glad that somebody was gracious enough to even take time to send me that letter. And I kept going, kept going. And in Brooklyn also was another great set of musicians who you will always also know. It was M-Bass. You know, Steve Coleman lived there, and Greg Osby lives there, and Cassandra Wilson lived there. I just had
Cassandra on the show the other week.
Right, yeah. And Smitty and them lived there. All of us lived in Brooklyn.
Wow.
But I was more like on the straight ahead kind of thing. They was doing all the experimental, pushing the envelope type stuff, what M-Bass did.
Right.
And Steve Coleman had gotten a production deal. He was recording for Novus, and he was also doing a production deal there. And it is because of Steve Coleman that I got on RCA, because he took me to Steve Backer. We did and said, you should, give her a chance, blah, blah, blah. Steve said, I'll produce the demo for the company. And he did. And we took the demo in there, and Steve said, okay, we're going to sign her. And that was it. You know, we went in. Steve ended up not producing the record because he wanted to do something else, and I wanted to do something different. But he never got in my way, and I always loved Steve Coleman for that, because it was like, if it wasn't for him, you know, I would not have gotten the attention of Steve Backer, who had that label Novus under RCA. And I went in, and then that's when I met. I was looking for producers. I didn't know really what a producer was all about, but I was out one night, you know, listening to people again. I used to do that all the time, going out, meeting and listening. And I ran up onto this piano player. And the minute he started playing, I said, that brother has the magic, and whatever is coming off of those keyboards, I want that. That person is my producer. It was Onaje Allen Gums.
Allen Gums. Yeah, we just lost him too. Boy.
I know. But it was Onaje Allen Gums, and Onaje, you know, I didn't really know his whole story.
Yeah.
But he was into everything. You know, he liked R&B, jazz. He had played with, you know, Woody Shaw.
Right.
He produced stuff for Phyllis Hyman. He could do it all. And he came on as the producer. And I told him what I wanted to do. And he came in and he shaped and seasoned, and, you know, and hence was my very first Soul Eyes, which was my first offering.
Let me tell you something. That album is incredible. You know, my favorite tune on there is what you did with Giant Steps. Oh,
that was on, and I didn't really look. It's not Giant Steps like Coltrane would do Giant Steps, because I'm not that kind of a singer.
Right.
But that was Onaje's suggestion. And,
really?
You know, I can pick that tune. Onaje, we sat in my living room at my piano that day, and he was saying, we were going through tunes, and you know, the more straight ahead things are my offerings. And he said, what about Giant Steps? And I said, whoo, I don't know about no Giant Steps, because, you know, And he said, but he, you know, he made me not afraid. He put that adult contemporary, if I can say, feel on it. I had some great musicians, Eddie Allen, Cecil Bridgewater, and all of them. They were all, you know, all my regular friends, people who I was gigging with, came in, and Najee, and, you know, did the sweetening, because he used the Kurtz viol, and Eddie flew in the trumpet. So it was just wonderful. All I had to do was stand there and sing. And then do the vocal, you know, any extra, you know, vocal stuff, because I didn't have any background singers, so we just double tracks and stuff like that. But that was all Onaje's creation. And people always say that they love that track, but I really cannot take credit for that. Wow. That was Onaje. Allen Gums, God rest his blessed soul.
Yeah, just lost.
Yeah, that boy was incredible.
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to some of the stuff with Woody Shaw. You know, they did that Vanguard date in the 70s.
Yeah.
And Onaje is just rolling on there. I mean, he's just incredible.
And the thing is the brother could cross, you know, he could just cross over so many lines. He just was so gifted. But the thing about it is, you know, whether I could identify all the genres that he could participate in, it was always the beauty that came from his playing, his choice of chords, his touch at the piano. You know, it was just so melodic and just you know, penetrating. That boy was gifted. Yeah, he was truly gifted. And hence I used him on my next record, which was Pastiche, and we co-produced that one together. So I was glad and very honored to have had him involved in my career early on. Yeah, so they're humble times are still humble. What can I say? You never lose your humility.
That's right. What was it like working with Kenny Barron?
Well, you know, Kenny was doing me a favor. It's not like I had gigs with Kenny. I was dating Paul West. We were an item for a number of years. And like I said, Kenny was of his generation. And so because of Paul West, I met Kenny, and anything that Paul wanted to do, he would always call some of his associates, and
Right.
Kenny Barron happened to be one of them. And he was, Paul West is another fantastic bass player. First call for anybody coming in New York that didn't bring their basses, you know, Joe Williams, Carmen McRae. He was with Dizzy's Big Band when he was 18 years old, was on the road with Dinah, had 2 children later in life and didn't want to go out on the road. So then he stayed in New York and took over as music director at Henry Street Settlement, where he conducted his own symphony and did operas and so forth. But he was so well respected, classy guy, fantastic bass player. And because of him, I used to get into the Blue Note and get into the dressing rooms with Carmen.
Wow.
Standing in the corner, minding my business, just glad to be there with Billy Eckstein.
Oh, wow.
With Sarah Vaughan and Billy Eckstein. I mean, he commanded that kind of respect, and I was just glad to be a fly on the wall. It was fantastic. And he's still alive in New York and doing some playing. I don't know how much more, but, you know, I've been blessed to have met and been embraced by some very special people in jazz, which is no matter what, I can't help but continue to be encouraged because they saw enough in me to want to reach out and help me, and including Barry Harris to this day, because when I did my Dameron project, The Dream Is You, Barry came to the studio when I did it and was sitting there listening. And of course, you know, when I sung something that wasn't, you know, he's like, now right here, this is what you need to be singing. And I was like, that's right. And he even lyrics. Right. You know, after a while, you sing something for so long, sometimes you start putting your own thing in there, and you really can't do that sometimes. You need to sing the original stuff first, sing the melody first, if you value that. Yeah. I think it's important. That was one of the focus points of that record. It wasn't to recreate the wheel. It wasn't to do me necessarily change anything Tad did, but to introduce and reintroduce to the listening audience the greatness of Tad Dameron. Yes, and expand, you know, fabulous, you know, and the discography that he has is so wide. I haven't begun to scratch the surface of, you know, the things that he has done over the years, but I just wanted to deal with the vocal numbers and trying to offer some new vocal numbers too, to kind of expand the vocal library for singers who might want to sing more Dameron. But definitely another genius from my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, if I may add.
We had a little slight problem, internet connection. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah, you just went out for like a little bit. Okay. But speaking of Tad Dameron, he's also from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah. Just that was where it broke off. And I was saying, if I may add, who is from my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, he was great. You know, when I saw you in February, you and I chatted a little bit about that. I love the stuff that he did with Fats Navarra. That was some good stuff, you know. Yeah. Just a great musician, really something else. Now, tell me about this work that you did, this tribute you did with Billie Holiday yesterday.
Oh, Yesterday's, an evening with Billie Holiday. That was produced by Woody King Jr. From the National Black Network. He's an actor, he's a playwright, he's a producer, and he's been out here for, I would hate to say, I'm afraid to say how many years, maybe over 50. Okay. 50 years. People in Black theater, but particularly in Black theater, know him. I met him after I got to New York, and he was very friendly with Amir Barak. Yeah, the writer, playwright, activist, everything.
Yeah.
And but Woody knows everybody,
Right.
just everybody. But in any case, he had this play that he had done before, written by this chick named Renee Upchurch, I think it is. I'm getting it wrong.
Okay.
Lord, forgive me if I'm getting it wrong. But she had written this play, and it's like it's not Emerson's Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. It's really not that play, but obviously there are a lot of similar themes and similar. But I like it because it's different the way it's written and portrayed. And I had at the time moved from New York. I had got into one of those, I'm tired of New York, I'm done, I'm taking a break, forget New York, and I sold my apartment, my first apartment, and I bought a house back home. And honestly speaking now, I was hiding in the renovation of my home. I was tired, I had felt like, defeated, and I was just tired because I felt like I was just spinning my wheels. The record companies had started shutting down and, dropping all, the jazz labels were condensing and disappearing, and I was just out there. So I said, I'm taking a break. So I came home, and while I was home that year, I got a call from Woody, and I knew Woody because he used to have his office at Henry Street, where Paul West was the music director. So I used to see him and go to some of his plays at the theater there.
Okay.
And he told me about the play. And he said, yeah, I got this play I want you to do. And it's, the life and music of Billie Holiday. And I'm on the phone going, who, me? I mean, like, Woody, why you calling me? You know every fantastic Black actress, a paper, I can go down the line. Who can do this? Why you call? I'm not an actor. He says, no, I need you. Needless to say, he and Amiri had came to one of my gigs one night, and Amiri told him that night, that's your Billie Holiday right there. The difference in what he was doing was he always had good actresses who could kind of sing.
Right.
But he wanted a singer who he could work with their acting, because the most important thing about the Billie Holiday stuff is this play was the music. There were 18 tunes in this thing. I knew a lot of them, but there was some of them I really didn't know. And so I said, because I don't have any experience in theater, I said, okay, you want me to be in the play? Cool, I'll do it. And I should have said, why don't you send me the script? That's what real professionals do. Oh, let me take a look at the script. I just said, yeah, I'll do it. So he sent the script a couple of weeks later, and I looked at the script and I went, okay. And it ain't no like, where are all the people? I see me. Well, I don't see no other people. So I call him up, this is me and the band. So I say, Woody, you didn't tell me this was a one-woman show. So now I'm panicking because I'm like, okay, it's 30 pages of dialogue. And, Billy things wasn't always making sense. I got all these songs and I'm tying in dialogue, the songs, and some of it is funny and some of it is joyful and some of it is very dark. And I have an incredible responsibility to tell the story of Billie Holiday and sing her music. That's a heavy thing, because I didn't take it lightly. And I haven't really done theater, so I go to New York, and he was very good, he worked with me, and the music wasn't really that much of a problem. I had a really great trio, but and I thought that I like to tell stories. Now I have to act. It is not about Vanessa. Vanessa, this is not your story.
Right.
Get out of your way and let Billy talk. Sometimes it left me very vulnerable, and it's sad. you know, but I'm just sorry that I didn't get a chance to do more of it. I did it off and on for about 3 years, but I guess like everything else, funding, you know, it's a lot to do. You can't, it's not a one-off kind of play that you can just be off 3 months and maybe come back and do it one night at a university, because it's just a lot to hold together. You know, the personality, the stories, the level of believability that you need to try to achieve every night. And, you know, working with the lighting and the staging and just the whole thing. But I feel, you know, we did it in St. Louis. I was nominated for Kevin Kline award for Best Actress in a Musical that year. I was very, talk about humbled. It was, I can't even put words on it. So yeah, I was given the opportunity to do some live theater, and I keep telling myself I should probably do more. I tried to bring it and do something with it here in Cleveland, but like most things, you know, it's all about funding, and I don't want to like sacrifice my singing career trying to now begin to be an actress. I had a great time with it, and maybe I'll just do some other small roles if somebody's interested in the future. In the meantime, you know, I'm just trying to swing, baby.
I hear you. I hear you. Hey, listen, I wanted to congratulate you on your NAACP award that you won this year. I think that was back in what, February, wasn't it? February, March? February,
yeah, and this year.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, for the Tad Dameron project. And that was so great because, you know, that project I self-produced. Paid for everything, produced it. It was a hell of an ambitious endeavor. Having a fantastic octet, some great musicians who came in and worked hard for me. You know, again, having Cecil Bridgewater, just people that just love what you do and believe in you. It wasn't all about the money, you know. I couldn't pay them everything they were worth, really, you know. But they came, they played with love, went back to Systems 2, which was the studio I first started recording in. I just loved that studio. It's now defunct, but it was still going on at the time. I had the arrangements. I had started working on that project back in around 2005.
Okay,
and
wow.
And had debuted it in 2006.
Okay.
At the Kennedy Center and at Dizzy's for a week in 2007. But after that, I really couldn't get much interest in it, but I knew the value of it. So I just brought all that music home that I spent so long collecting and getting those guys to arrange it, because, you know, it features some of our greatest NEA jazz masters. You know, the arrangements are by Benny Golson, Frank Foster, Jimmy Heath, you know, Willie Smith, who was alto player here in Cleveland, who knew the Dameron family. You know, I got Bobby Watson on there, who's one of the younger ones.
Bobby was just on the show on Thursday.
Bobby Watson.
Yeah, Bobby's a great guy.
Yes,
we got his drummer.
Okay, we gotta.
Let's see. Little internet. Can you hear me now?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it keeps going in and out. Some technical difficulties. Sorry about that. Please continue.
No, I was just saying I love Bobby Watson, and so I had all that music for some time, and I put it in my drawer, and then, you know, I was recording, you know, I did, you know, some stuff for Telarc, and then I did collaborative project with Don Braden. And then when I just said, Vanessa, stop. Just don't be afraid. You can do this.
Right.
You know, and I did it. And I think after I recorded it was still another maybe year and a half or two before I even got it out, because there's so much involved, you know, in putting out a record. I know I so deeply appreciate and understand everything that a record company does for you, because they have a team, and when you're your own team, you got to do your own radio, you got to do your own print and pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the contact people, and it just kept, I just had to wait till I could afford, you know, get a hunk, boom, pay and get that done. Get another hunk, boom, pay for that. Credit card this, credit card that, boom, boom. So back to what you said about the nomination, I was really, so I had forgotten that I had been entered into that. And so when I called and when I was contacted, I said, girl, you got the nomination for the Image Award. Didn't matter if I had won or not. I got nominated for something that I did that for so long kind of stressed me, because I was like, oh God, is this gonna work? Is it gonna sound? It's so empowering, self-empowering to know that you can do it. You know, because I don't have like a studio in my basement like some of my comrades do. They down there making records and cutting tracks every day. They probably got, you know, CDs in the can. But I went to a traditional studio. I'd had the music. It wasn't the kind of thing I could record an octet in my basement. You know, I really needed to go in a studio and be very organic about it, which is what these times are really throwing a curveball my way, because of this pandemic. Here we are. I think this is great that we can sit here and have an interview.
Yeah.
But I don't really want to make music through a computer. I want to be, if I got to be 6 feet away from somebody or behind a piece of plexiglass, I want to see the musicians. I want to be in the moment.
Right.
I am very, what I call performance dependent. I need to be in the moment. I need to interact with what is going on collectively, the conversation that we're having collectively. I just can't, you know, just be sitting here talking about, okay, I'm looking in your box, and your box, and your box. Right. I don't know if I'm going to survive this. I did a piece for some people in Ukraine. It was my first one for a group that we did, and we put it out. You might find it on the internet. Me, Don Braden, a drummer from Russia, a piano player in Italy, and a bass player from Holland. You know, everybody was sending in their stuff one at a time. And when I was sitting there going, really, y'all? And I'm sitting here listening to the track, and I'm standing in my living room. It had to be moon glow. I mean, yeah, I like to swing it way up in the blue, trying to get all into it. And when they got through syncing everything, it turned out really well. So I said, okay, that's cute, but you know what? Just don't make a habit out of this. I mean, I gotta eat, but come on now. A lot of musicians are, you know, I had Cassandra Wilson on the show the other week. We were just talking about the same thing. Everybody's going through it, but didn't you do some type of touring or something with Herbie Hancock? What that was, I was, you know, it sounds really great, like, ooh, Vanessa and Herbie. It was the Monk Institute years ago. Okay. Of course, which he was affiliated with when it was in Washington. And I went out and did a State Department tour with them. And they had some kids, some young musicians who came out of the Monk Institute. Danny Grissett was one of them, whom when he finished and he came out of California, he moved to New York, I hired him immediately. That's like my little brother. I love Danny Grissett. And whenever because he's moved to Europe now, but whenever I'm in Europe, I don't take no band. I just call Danny, and if he's not busy, because he's always in demand, I like, put me a trio together, brother, then let's go, because he is like, mwah. Love him. But he was part of that tour that year. And Herbie was there. And you know, I didn't know, you know, I didn't have a personal relationship with Herbie. I guess on that tour, you know, we did get to become more friends, friendly. But every night, Herbie and I would have to go out. They say, you know, we want you and Herbie to go out and sing one tune together every night. And I'm like, me and Herbie, what tune is that gonna be? So I go to Herbie and I say, Herbie, let's do Lush Life. You know, I love ballads. Now, why I could say Lush Life? So Herbie says, yeah, that's nice. He said, but Vanessa, I don't know that tune. And I feel like, come on, Herbie, all of me, you gotta know Lush Life. A tune is for Herbie, it's just a vehicle to somewhere else. Can I just say that?
That's him, yeah.
It is just a vehicle to somewhere else. Now, Lush Life is already somewhere else. So I bring out my music because I'm professional and prepared, and I put the music down and I go, you know, I used to visit all the very young. Herbie, this is the little verse like, and he's in the come with me places, and he's going through the shit, you know. Then we get to the tune, life is long, there's already some straight isms in there. And so we get to the gig, Herbie already maybe 20 interpretations past what we did in rehearsal. But it was fantastic because he wasn't gonna play it the same way every night. Thank God I knew Lush Life. I was just walking the tightrope every night and it was exciting, but I could not lean on Herbie to give me my place.
Right.
I had to just know where I was. And the thing is, if you get lost, it don't matter because Herbie is always searching.
Yeah.
You just gotta be able to go on and be lost and don't panic, but be able to come back. In fact, he likes being lost. He don't want to be on no regular road.
I think he learned those. Yeah, I think he learned those lessons from Miles Davis, working with Miles Davis.
Yeah, and you know, and you know, I asked him another time we were doing something together in Washington, and I called All the Things You Are, and I said, Herbie, you don't know that song? And he said, Vanessa, I forgot all them tunes. I mean, he know music. If you put the music down, and the man is brilliant, he can play anything. But once he does it, he's not gonna play that. He may play something close, but he loves to create in the moment. And by the time you get to bass 3 or whatever your creative moment is, Herbie done already ran the basses around on you. So you gotta so every night I got to do Lush Life with him. It was one of those moments in my career that I will never forget. And it wasn't taped that I know of. It wasn't televised. So nobody will ever know that I sung with Herbie Hancock every night on this tour. One song, Lush Life, and it was phenomenal.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody taped it because you'd be surprised, you know, somebody could have taped it.
I think Danny Grissett has a copy of it.
Yeah.
But
But, you know, I was going to say, Vanessa, you know, something I would love to hear you do, I've never heard anyone do. I would love to hear you sing some tunes by Bud Powell. Some of his music is just extraordinary, like Dance of the Infidels, Celia. He had some beautiful tunes, and I could, you know, just the way that you sing, I could imagine you singing some of his music. I really can.
Yeah, I you know, so much music, so little time. I have ideas. I would love to do a ballad record with at least four of my favorite tenor players.
Yeah.
I love tenor, and I mean some bad kicking ballads with at least four of my tenor players, favorite tenor players. I want to do a blues-based record. I'm going into the blues backwards.
Okay.
I always liked the blues, but I think I was scared of the blues. When I first came out singing, I was probably singing some bluesy things, but I really want to do, I don't know what it's going to sound like, but I really want to do a blues-based record. I want to try to do a couple of things with that because I love Irene Reed. And I love Etta Jones. And Etta was a friend of mine much later in her life. I think I met her maybe her last 10 or 15 years, but she embraced me and recorded 2 songs with me on my record called Girl Talk. And I used to go hear Irene, but I'm sorry that I was too busy running the streets in Lower Manhattan when I should have been uptown in the organ joints up under Irene Reed, because I came up with organ, but you know, it seemed like when I came from Cleveland, I didn't, you know, I used to work with piano trios, but it was all about organ. When I got to New York, it was all about the singer and the piano trio. And so therefore, you know, I was doing a lot of that. But Irene Reed was uptown swinging and singing the blues, and I got hit to wanting to be around her more later in her later years. So anyway, I say all that to say, I was thinking of doing a tribute record to her and Etta together. And this record will be maybe called Uptown Girls.
Hey, that'll work.
They were uptown, and I got this tune written, Uptown Girls Party All Night Long. You know,
I would love to hear that.
Stay out to the break of dawn. You know, oh yeah. I want to do a blues bass because it's fun, and I'm older, mature, more mature. I'm more comfortable in the skin that I'm in. So some of the things that I was probably not as comfortable about or not as confident about, I have kind of let go some of that, which is good. I said this in an interview I did a couple of weeks ago. I was saying, you know, being in jazz, my journey in jazz is as much about a journey to myself as it has been in the music.
Interesting.
Finding the music, because you know, life is music and you can't have one without the other, okay? And I think when I was younger and maybe not as confident and cared about what you know, the jazz police thought or whatever, I was probably much more safe. And I sounded that way. And it was good, but I sounded that way. And so now I don't care, because there are perfections in the imperfections. It's real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm not Leontine Price. Woo, you know, everything is, it's good to have good pitch and all of that. I'm not saying that's not important, but I'm saying sometimes if it's the voice is a little rough, you know, or you go a little off a little, that's okay. Yeah. I've learned that that's okay. But I remember in the moments when I didn't, and then it would make me feel like I wasn't good enough. And so that's it. So getting older and maturing and accepting the fact that you're good enough. You're good enough. So many of us walk around with that. We don't always verbalize it, but we're good enough. And so that part of that journey. And so, and then learning to let go as you get older, you know, with that liberating feeling. That stuff that was holding you back, you ain't letting it hold you back like that. And so then you get to peel away the stuff. And you get to being the most authentic self that you can find. And that's scary because it's kind of vulnerable. And you don't really want the people to see the boo-boos, but that's exactly what they want. Because that's what, when you can do that and you sing from that place, that is what gives you your greatest ability, your greatest level of believability, as Carmen would say. You're getting to the essence of who you really are. Yes, the but that's believability. And so like in acting, that's what you really want to do. You want to tap those references. Personal references might not be exactly the same thing, but that reference point where you can get that feeling to convey that meaning. And it is in those moments, this is what I'm saying about working organically. It is in those moments where you are most vulnerable and you're trying to do things and you're not holding back, that you hit truth and you develop a connection with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment. You can't do it if it ain't in the moment. You can fake it. Maybe some people fake it, but I could never like really fake. I could tell when I would do a performance and I would sound good and everything would be good, but I knew that wall was there. And now I don't want no wall. You know what I'm saying? I still want to be professional. I still want to adhere to harmony and melody and rhythm and good tone and all that. But I want the feeling. Frank Foster would always say that, yeah, it's great, you know, but if you miss some notes, if we do it, he said, feeling is most important. I have a lot of emotion, and, you know, but sometimes, you know, like I said, you don't always want people to know all your emotion. And it's a way to use the energy from your emotions to color and create and do things. And so all of that's wrapped up in the blues too. Fast blues, slow blues, whatever. I just have a lot that I still need to get out, and I don't know when and how I'm going to do it, but.
Well, I tell you, Vanessa, once this COVID-19 pandemic is over, please come to Baltimore and perform at Keystone Corner, because that's the hot spot for jazz.
I've been down there. My best friend lives in Baltimore, and
really?
I go down there. Yeah, in fact, Don and I used to work there once every summer at the museum. You know that gig they used to have at the art museum, that outdoor jazz thing they used to do at the Baltimore Art Museum?
Baltimore Museum of the Art, I believe you're talking about.
Yes, me and Don Braden used to do that almost every summer.
Wow.
Oh, we had I love Don Braden. That's my man, boy. We just, you know, we've been working together we've been knowing each other for a long time. That's why the record we did together was called 360. We done came all the way back around from when we was working at the racetrack together.
Right.
But anyway, I would love to do Keystone Corner. I mean, I know Todd. I ain't gonna put him on Front Street. I have called him. He knows I'm available. All they got to do is call me and we can make it work. But people also have to understand that this is a business. And Todd needs support, not just for me. Getting the musicians ain't no problem. A lot of us will come down there. But clubs need meat in the seat. Can I say that again?
Yes.
Clubs need meat in the seat. And if enough people in Baltimore, I'm glad you think I'm great and I'm humble and thank you, but if enough people don't show up when Vanessa Rubin comes or anybody else, what can I say? Yeah. They need meat in the seat. It's a new club, and I look at all of the people he's had down there. I'm like, hey man, that's a hell of a lineup. Yeah. But how long are we gonna keep resting? I mean, I'm not getting no younger. Resting on these classic jazz artists, Ron Carter and them, before y'all show up? Come on.
That's right.
I was there when Johnny O'Neill was there. Woo! Johnny O'Neill's trio. If you don't know who look here. My brother used to say, people go to a jazz club for three major things. Number one, for what it stands for. Well, this is a new club and he's establishing himself. Number two, the owner. We know that's a co-owner, but if you're going for music, you're going because Todd Barker is doing it, and everybody knows Todd's reputation up 10 years ago when it was Keystone Corner out on the West Coast. And service. Service. So I sat at the bar and my service was good. So I don't know about the rest of the food. I understand that the other owner is a restaurateur, and so I guess the food is good. And
the food is good.
It ain't the greatest layout for me because sometimes the poles, depending on where you're sitting. But I don't care. The music is there. Todd knows who to bring in. He don't have to worry about me ever turning him down. I would be there. But I think Todd's focus is because he knows me, you know, I worked at Disney's a couple of times when he was there. He got to get some meat in the seat. And he, like, it ain't just Todd, but it's he and every club owner that are booking are always trying to get the biggest bang for their buck. That's just, it ain't personal. They got to put a lineup in there that people are going to be excited about. So that's why I'm doing interviews. I'm glad for any nomination. I mean, I don't mind doing stuff for exposure, but I said, if I do any more exposure, I might as well be naked. When do people just get with the next generation? Because like I said, there's some people coming up behind me. If it's all about marketing, because this is a generation of marketing, what, I gotta get 21 Grammys like Chick Corea before y'all think, you know, the act is valuable enough. You gotta be on the Wheaties box, or you gotta be on the cover of Time magazine before people get, do I have to be on your Facebook page every day? Because this is how we're fed. It wasn't like that before. I'm old school and I don't mind getting with some of this stuff from the 21st century. But back to Todd, I would love to come. Look, I went out there and sung at the Haven back in the day. As Gary Bartz called it, the bucket of blood.
Gary Bartz,
yeah, I mean, I sung at the Haven. I don't know where else is a place to sing. I did a little festival one there when y'all would come. I would love to come to Baltimore. I would love to do, I call this period, the rise of the chitlin circuit. You laughing, but we said the rise of the chitlin circuit. I would love to be able to say, okay, I got a little club I can work in. I'm in Detroit. I come down to Cleveland. I'm gonna go down to Cincinnati maybe, or I'm gonna go down to DC. Then I'm gonna roll maybe to DC, and the Baltimore market is too close. I mean, I don't know, but you know, I'm do the East Coast, do New York, come down, hit Philly, leave Philly, come on down to DC and do either Keystone or the Blues Alley, or why you can't hook that kind of stuff up no more? It's just that block.
You're right. You still have, of course, the Kennedy Center and the Howard Theater, the legendary Howard Theater in DC.
Yes, and the Lincoln Theater, because I did a concert there, Ella Fitzgerald tribute there with the Smithsonian. That's not the chitlin circuit. I said the rise of the chitlin circuit. Everybody can't be in the Kennedy Center every night. They call me, I'll be there with my evening gown on and I'll play the role. But what I love, just some regular hits at the Keystone, at Blues Alley. I ain't never been to Twins.
Yeah, Twins is still there.
I mean, I don't know, but I know some clubs that really can showcase you properly for a vocalist. I would love to do that, but it's trying to get, people just don't understand the mechanics, what booking agents and managers go through trying to get their artists booked in these little places, and then the money is just like, oh Lord. You know, all of us are taking like a hit, a serious hit. But, you know, people never did make a whole lot of money on the chitlin circuit, so I'm not trying to break the bank. Obviously, it's me and a trio minimally. I want to come with my own band because I can do my best performance with people who know me and know my music. But, you know, everything is about picking up a band. I've been working with so many different groups at night. When I introduce a band, I have to say, tonight I got, and on piano I got, I don't want to do that all the time. And they're fabulous. You know, Alan Johnson lives down that way. I love Alan Johnson. Bad brother. Okay, so is Alan going to be the one for the next 10 gigs? Because at least I want the same pianist, you know, for consistency, so you can get off the music, off the paper, and get to that stuff that we was talking about. You know, that unplanned stuff, that stuff that happens, as Kurt Licey would call it, the magic. You can't get to the magic if you're always on the paper. You got to get off the paper and try some things.
That's right. That is so true.
Yeah, so keep your fingers crossed. Call them up and tell them call Vanessa for the
I
kids.
definitely will. I talked to Todd. Well, Vanessa, listen, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. You're such a joy. Love you. Love your music. And hang on. Don't hang up. I'm going to close out the show. Well, you've heard it from Vanessa Rubin. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must.
Yeah.
I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.